Chapter 21. The Lord took note of Sarah as he had said he would. He did for her as he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time that God had stated. Abraham gave the name Isaac to this son of his, whom Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God had commanded. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah then said, "God has given me cause to laugh, and all who hear of it will laugh with me." "Who would have told Abraham," she added, "that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age." Isaac grew, and on the day of the child's weaning, Abraham held a great feast. Sarah noticed the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she demanded of Abraham, "Drive out that slave and her son. No son of that slave is going to share the inheritance with my son Isaac." Abraham was greatly distressed, especially on account of his son Ishmael. But God said to Abraham, "Do not be distressed about the boy or about your slave woman. Heed the demands of Sarah, no matter what she is asking of you, for it is through Isaac that descendants shall bear your name. As for the son of the slave woman, I will make a great nation of him also, since he too is your offspring." Early the next morning, Abraham got some bread and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. Then placing the child on her back, he sent her away. As she roamed aimlessly in the wilderness of Beersheba, the water in the skin was used up. So she put the child down under a shrub, and then went out and sat down opposite him, about a bow-shot away, for she said to herself, "Let me not watch to see the child die." As she sat opposite him, he began to cry. God heard the boy's cry, and God's messenger called to Hagar from heaven. "What is the matter, Hagar? Don't be afraid. God has heard the boy's cry in this plight of his. Arise, lift up the boy and hold him by the hand, for I will make of him a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water, and then let the boy drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert bowman, with his home in the wilderness of Haran. His mother got a wife for him from the land of Egypt. About that time, Abimelech, accompanied by Phicol, the commander of his army, said to Abraham, "God is with you in everything you do. Therefore swear to me by God at this place that you will not deal falsely with me or with my progeny and posterity, but will act as loyally toward me and the land in which you stay as I have acted toward you." To this Abraham replied, "I so swear." Abraham, however, reproached Abimelech about a well that Abimelech's men had seized by force. "I have no idea who did that," Abimelech replied. "In fact, you never told me about it, nor did I ever hear of it until now." Then Abraham took sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two made a pact. Abraham also set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock. And Abimelech asked him, "What is the purpose of the 7 ewe lambs that you have set apart?" Abraham answered, "The 7 ewe lambs you shall accept from me, that thus I may have your acknowledgment that the well was dug by me. This is why the place is called Beersheba. The two of them took an oath there." When they had thus made the pact in Beersheba, Abimelech, along with Phicol, the commander of his army, left and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk at Beersheba, and there he invoked the name of the Lord God the Eternal. Abraham resided in the land of the Philistines for many years. Chapter 22. Sometime after these events, God put Abraham to the test. He called to him, "Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son Isaac, your only one, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. There you shall offer him up as a holocaust on a height that I will point out to you." Early the next morning, Abraham saddled his donkey, took with him his son Isaac, and 2 of his servants as well, and with the wood that he had cut for the holocaust, set out for the place of which God had told him. On the third day, Abraham got sight of the place from afar. Then he said to his servants, "Both of you, stay here with the donkey, while the boy and I go over yonder. We will worship and then come back to you." Thereupon Abraham took the wood for the holocaust and laid it on his son Isaac's shoulders, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two walked on together, Isaac spoke to his father Abraham. "Father," he said. "Yes, son," he replied. Isaac continued, "Here are the fire and the wood, but where is the sheep for the holocaust?" "Son," Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the sheep for the holocaust." Then the two continued going forward. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. Next he tied up his son Isaac and put him on top of the wood on the altar. Then he reached out and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the Lord's messenger called to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Yes, Lord," he answered. "Do not lay your hand on the boy," said the messenger. "Do not do the least thing to him. I know now how devoted you are to God, since you did not withhold from me your own beloved son." As Abraham looked about, he spied a ram caught by its horns in the thicket. So he went and took the ram and offered it up as a holocaust in place of his son. Abraham named the site Yahweh Yireh. Hence people now say, "On the mountain the Lord will see." Again the Lord's messenger called to Abraham from heaven and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you acted as you did, in not withholding from me your beloved son, I will bless you abundantly, and make your descendants as countless as the stars of the sky and the sands of the seashore. Your descendants shall take possession of the gates of their enemies, and in your descendants all the nations of the earth shall find blessing. All this because you obeyed my command." Abraham returned to his servants, and they set out together for Beersheba, where Abraham made his home. Some time afterward, the news came to Abraham, "Milcah too has borne sons to your brother Nahor. Uz, his firstborn, his brother Booz, Kemuel, Hesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Abraham's brother Nahor. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore children: Tebah, Gaham, Tahash, and Maacah. Chapter 23. The span of Sarah's life was 127 years. She died in Kiriath Arba, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham performed the customary mourning rites for her. Then he left the site of his dead one and addressed the Hittites. "Although I am a resident alien among you, sell me from your holdings a piece of property for a burial ground, that I may bury my dead wife." The Hittites answered Abraham, "Please, sir, listen to us. You are an elect of God among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial sites. None of us would deny you this burial ground for the burial of your dead." Abraham, however, began to bow low before the local citizens, the Hittites, while he appealed to them. "If you allow me room for burial of my dead, listen to me. Intercede for me with Ephron, son of Zohar, asking him to sell me the cave of Machpelah that he owns. It is at the edge of his field. Let him sell it to me in your presence at its full price for a burial place." Now Ephron was present with the Hittites. So Ephron the Hittite replied to Abraham in the hearing of the Hittites who sat on his town council, "Please, sir, listen to me. I give you both the field and the cave in it. In the presence of my kinsmen I make this gift. Bury your dead." But Abraham, after bowing low before the local citizens, addressed Ephron in the hearing of these men. "Ah, if only you would please listen to me. I will pay you the price of the field. Accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there." Ephron replied to Abraham, "Please, sir, listen to me. A piece of land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me as long as you can bury your dead?" Abraham accepted Ephron's terms. He weighed out to him the silver that Ephron had stipulated in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver at the current market value. Thus Ephron's field in Machpelah, facing Mamre, together with its cave, and all the trees anywhere within its limits, was conveyed to Abraham by purchase in the presence of all the Hittites who sat on Ephron's town council. After this transaction, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, in the land of Canaan. Thus the field with its cave was transferred from the Hittites to Abraham as a burial place. Chapter 24. Abraham had now reached a ripe old age, and the Lord had blessed him in every way. Abraham said to the senior servant of his household, who had charge of all his possessions, "Put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not procure a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live, but that you will go to my own land and to my kindred to get a wife for my son Isaac." The servant asked him, "What if the woman is unwilling to follow me to this land? Should I then take your son back to the land from which you migrated?" "Never take my son back there for any reason," Abraham told him. "The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and the land of my kin, and who confirmed by oath the promise he then made to me, I will give this land to your descendants. He will send his messenger before you, and you will obtain a wife for my son there. If the woman is unwilling to follow you, you will be released from this oath, but never take my son back there." So the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master Abraham, and swore to him in this undertaking. The servant then took 10 of his master's camels, and bearing all kinds of gifts from his master, he made his way to the city of Nahor in Aram Naharaim. Near evening, at the time when women go out to draw water, he made the camels kneel by the well outside the city. Then he prayed, "Lord, God of my master Abraham, let it turn out favorably for me today, and thus deal graciously with my master Abraham, while I stand here at the spring, and the daughters of the townsmen are coming out to draw water. If I say to a girl, 'Please lower your jug that I may drink,' and she answers, 'Take a drink, and let me give water to your camels too,' let her be the one whom you have decided upon for your servant Isaac. In this way I shall know that you have dealt graciously with my master." He had scarcely finished these words when Rebekah came out with a jug on her shoulder. The girl was very beautiful, a virgin untouched by man. She went down to the spring and filled her jug. As she came up, the servant ran toward her and said, "Please give me a sip of water from your jug." "Take a drink, sir," she replied, and quickly lowering the jug onto her hand, she gave him a drink. When she had let him drink his fill, she said, "I will draw water for your camels too, until they have drunk their fill." With that, she quickly emptied her jug into the drinking trough, and ran back to the well to draw more water until she had drawn enough for all the camels. The man watched her the whole time, silently waiting to learn whether or not the Lord had made his errand successful. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took out a gold ring weighing 1/2 shekel, which he fastened on her nose, and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels, which he put on her wrists. Then he asked her, "Whose daughter are you? Tell me, please, and is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" She answered, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. There is plenty of straw and fodder at our place," she added, "and room to spend the night." The man then bowed down and worshipped to the Lord, saying, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not let his constant kindness toward my master fail. As for myself also, the Lord has led me straight to the house of my master's brother." Then the girl ran off and told her mother's household about it. Now Rebekah had a brother named Laban. As soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister Rebekah, and heard her words about what the man had said to her, Laban rushed outside to the man at the spring. When he reached him, he was still standing by the camels at the spring. So he said to him, "Come, blessed of the Lord, why are you staying outside when I have made the house ready for you, as well as a place for the camels?" The man then went inside, and while the camels were being unloaded and provided with straw and fodder, water was brought to bathe his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. But when the table was set for him, he said, "I will not eat until I have told my tale." "Do so," they replied. "I am Abraham's servant," he began. "The Lord has blessed my master so abundantly that he has become a wealthy man. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female slaves, and camels and asses. My master's wife Sarah bore a son to my master in her old age, and he has given him everything he owns. My master put me under oath, saying, 'You shall not procure a wife for my son among the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I live. Instead, you shall go to my father's house, to my own relatives, to get a wife for my son.' When I asked my master, 'What if the woman will not follow me?' he replied, 'The Lord in whose presence I have always walked will send his messenger with you and make your errand successful, and so you will get a wife for my son from my own kindred of my father's house. Then you shall be released from my ban. If you visit my kindred and they refuse you, then too you shall be released from my ban.' When I came to the spring today, I prayed, 'Lord God of my master Abraham, may it be your will to make successful the errand I am engaged on. While I stand here at the spring, if I say to a young woman who comes out to draw water, "Please give me a little water from your jug," and she answers, "Not only may you have a drink, but I will give water to your camels too," let her be the woman whom the Lord has decided upon my master's son." I had scarcely finished saying this prayer to myself when Rebekah came out with a jug on her shoulder. After she went down to the spring and drew water, I said to her, "Please let me have a drink." She quickly lowered the jug she was carrying and said, "Take a drink, and let me bring water for your camels too." So I drank, and she watered the camels also. When I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" she answered, "The daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, born to Nahor by Milcah." So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrists. Then I bowed down and worshipped to the Lord, blessing the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me on the right road to obtain the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. If therefore you have in mind to show true loyalty to my master, let me know, but if not, let me know that too. I can then proceed accordingly." Laban and his household said in reply, "This thing comes from the Lord. We can say nothing to you either for or against it. Here is Rebekah, ready for you. Take her with you, that she may become the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has said." When Abraham's servant heard their answer, he bowed to the ground before the Lord. Then he brought out objects of silver and gold and articles of clothing and presented them to Rebekah. He also gave costly presents to her brother and mother. After he and the men with him had eaten and drunk, they spent the night there. When they were up the next morning, he said, "Give me leave to return to my master." Her brother and mother replied, "Let the girl stay with us a short while, say 10 days. After that she may go." But he said to them, "Do not detain me, now that the Lord has made my errand successful. Let me go back to my master." They answered, "Let us call the girl and see what she herself has to say about it." So they called Rebekah and asked her, "Do you wish to go with this man?" She answered, "I do." At this they allowed their sister Rebekah and her nurse to take leave, along with Abraham's servant and his men. Invoking a blessing on Rebekah, they said, "Sister, may you grow into thousands of myriads, and may your descendants gain possession of the gates of their enemies." Then Rebekah and her maids started out. They mounted their camels and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and went on his way. Meanwhile, Isaac had gone from Beer Lahai-roi and was living in the region of the Negeb. One day, toward evening, he went out. In the field, as he looked around, he noticed that camels were approaching. Rebekah, too, was looking about. And when she saw him, she alighted from her camel and asked the servant, "Who is the man out there, walking through the fields toward us?" "That is my master," replied the servant. Then she covered herself with her veil. The servant recounted to Isaac all the things he had done. Then Isaac took Rebekah into his tent. he married her, and thus she became his wife. In his love for her, Isaac found solace after the death of his mother, Sarah. Chapter 25. Abraham married another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan became the father of Sheba and Dedan. The descendants of Dedan were the Asherim, the Letashim, and the Leumim. The descendants of Midian were Epa, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. All of these were descendants of Keturah. Abraham deeded everything that he owned to his son Isaac. To his sons by concubinage, however, he made grants while he was still living, as he sent them away eastward to the land of Kedem, away from his son Isaac. The whole span of Abraham's life was 175 years. Then he breathed his last, dying at a ripe old age, grown old after a full life, and he was taken to his kinsmen. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, which faces Mamre, the field that Abraham had bought from the Hittites. There he was buried next to his wife Sarah. After the death of Abraham, God blessed his son Isaac, who made his home near Beer Lahai Roi. These are the descendants of Abraham's son Ishmael, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's slave, bore to Abraham. These are the names of Ishmael's sons, listed in the order of their birth: Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Mazah, Hadad, Tema, Jeter, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, their names by their villages and encampments, 12 chieftains as many tribal groups. The span of Ishmael's life was 137 years. After he had breathed his last and died, he was taken to his kinsmen. The Ishmaelites ranged from Havilah by Shur, which is on the border of Egypt, all the way to Ashur, and each of them pitched camp in opposition to his various kinsmen. This is the family history of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham had begotten Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Paddan Aram, and the sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac entreated the Lord on behalf of his wife, since she was sterile. The Lord heard his entreaty, and Rebekah became pregnant. But the children in her womb jostled each other so much that she exclaimed, "If this is to be so, what good will it do me?" She went to consult the Lord, and he answered her, "Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples are quarreling while still within you. But one shall surpass the other, and the older shall serve the younger." When the time of her delivery came, there were twins in her womb. The first to emerge was reddish, and his whole body was like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau. His brother came out next, gripping Esau's heel, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man who lived in the open, whereas Jacob was a simple man who kept to his tents. Isaac preferred Esau because he was fond of game, but Rebekah preferred Jacob. Once, when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the open, famished. He said to Jacob, "Let me gulp down some of that red stuff. I'm starving." But Jacob replied, "First, give me your birthright in exchange for it." "Look," said Esau, "I'm on the point of dying. What good will any birthright do me?" But Jacob insisted. "Swear to me first." So he sold Jacob his birthright under oath. Jacob then gave him some bread and the lentil stew, and Esau ate, drank, got up, and went his way. Esau cared little for his birthright.